Hi, today we're going to be talking about flexible goal setting for small businesses. So, hi, I'm Michelle Pontvert, both work great. I am your life first business strategist, and I'm really excited to be sharing more about how I get things done when life is lifing, when my calendar is not my own, and really help kind of give you some insights into how to make this business thing work when we don't have, all the space available we want. So, firstly, I wanted to talk a little bit about what goals actually are. Goals are meant to be something that helps motivate you, to give you a sense of direction and to let you know what done looks like. But goals don't always work for all people, and goal setting in particular for business can be really tricky if you don't know what realistic looks like. And I don't mean you don't know what realistic looks like in general, but for that specific goal, it can be really hard to know what a good amount of done is feasible for you in this stage of business with all the constraints you have in your life. And it can be really hard to set that benchmark for something brand new when we don't have the experience of having gone through it before. It can also be really frustrating when you're not there yet, when you're in that process of doing. If you're someone who does really aspire to those goals and it's taking longer than you thought or it's more challenging than you thought, sometimes that can really get you down and actually make it harder to do the work to get where you want to go rather than help motivate you to, keep moving forward. And then finally, I think this is my biggest kind of bugbear with goal setting in general is that it doesn't actually tell you what to do to get where you want to go. So you set yourself this big, high level, really big picture goal for yourself, but then you still have to do the hard work of figuring out, okay, now I know where I want to go. I know where I am now. How on earth am I meant to get there? Like, what am I meant to do day in and day out to actually achieve that goal? And that can be really challenging. So, my perspective on this is the goals are fine. If they help you, if they're motivating, that's great. But what I think is much more important is focusing on the actions you take day in and day out. And it is what you do that makes your business happen, not what you hope or dream. And yes, there's lots of stuff that people talk about with mindset and coming in with the right attitude. And I do think that at a point that's helpful, but ultimately that isn't actually, hands to keyboard isn't actually making anything happen. It's purely just ideating and thinking. And where business actually happens, where progress actually happens, actually in many areas of our lives, is when we actually go ahead and take action, we do things. So, my perspective, my kind of overall view of goal setting is that we just want to make sure we are moving in the right direction. And if we are taking actions, we're moving towards the things we want, ultimately you will get closer or at least in the right direction of what you want in the end. So yes, we can have those, far benchmarks of, if you're money motivated, if you want to get to 1, 10, 50 million as a business, just making the moves in the right direction to increasing your profit week in, day in, month in, however you want to measure it, can still help you get closer to that goal without hyperfixating on the specific number goal that you set yourself. Or if it's not sort of monetary, if you have goals for, creating more flexibility and freedom in your business, but today, right now, the business you have is really reliant on clients, you do have, other people dictating your schedule, then maybe moving in the right direction will be to start reshaping some of your packaging, help working on some of your customer experience, creating some canned responses so you don't have to constantly be on the hook to figure out how to manage those client experience pieces. So those are little actions you can take that help slowly chip away at the challenge you're in right now, but also help build you up towards what you ultimately want. And in this idea of, we have all of us different constraints in our lives, we have things going on outside of business. I do think it's important to, if you are setting goals, make them flexible. And I really like the idea of setting yourself projects rather than these big ultimate goals. Because when we set ourselves projects, we can break down what we actually have to do much more easily. So rather than just saying, I want to reach X million, then we can actually break down, okay, if I need to get to X million, perhaps I can break that down into, well, then I'll need this kind of offer. Okay, if I need that kind of offer, then I need to, build out these certain pieces of my business in order to be ready to sell that, or in order to have the audience to sell it to. So we can break those things down, but I think we can also come at it the other way, rather than saying, here's the process I need to take to get to that goal, because ultimately we don't know if that offer, in my example before, will make you X million. What we can do instead is say, well, what I have today is, this service-based business, and I do eventually want to have more time flexibility and freedom. Perhaps we set the project of setting up really good onboarding and we just work on getting the onboarding piece done. Maybe we want to start working on some one-to-many offers where we set ourselves a project to create one workshop, and we just start chipping away at that goal in a more contained and manageable pace by breaking it down into these project focuses. And then as we're kind of thinking through how to make goals more palatable, more realistic, but also less overwhelming, I think it's helpful to reflect on our goals rather than having benchmarks we have to hit and we can start feeling behind, or we start to feel some sense of like failure or disappointment if we don't reach them. I prefer to think of goals in this sense as guidance, as again, knowing which direction we're going. It's like the road back when we're on a big road trip. We need to know we're going the right way, but we don't have any sort of hard deadlines on when things have to happen or in which way. Sometimes there's a detour, sometimes there's road closures and we have to get creative, but ultimately we want to make sure we're back in the right direction and using those goals as guidance. So I like to let goals have a bit of a looser grip on my business, let you kind of use the goals to move and adapt as needed, but keeping them as that kind of view ahead, keeping them as the guidance you're heading towards, and keep yourself adaptable as your life and business evolve, because we do not know what life and business are going to look like 5, 10, 15 years down the line, and it would be really challenging if you locked into a certain goal and didn't give yourself space to adapt how you're getting there, and even what that goal is, as life and business evolve. So I prefer a looser grip on the goal in general. So as I said, my philosophy is we just want to move in the right direction. So I encourage you, if you do have these goals, or if you're trying to move towards something you aspire to, just choose boldly, pick something that feels exciting and motivating to you. I highly encourage you to embrace ignoring the sunk cost fallacy. This is where we hold on to the things we've worked hard to get, not acknowledging that sometimes letting them go can actually help us move further forward. My real life example of this is earlier this year, I actually retired 9 of my previously quite successful and popular courses because they were no longer aligned with the business I wanted to be building. And that could be really tempting to just hold on to them, to hoard them, because I spent so much time on them and I had so much momentum behind them. But keeping those things that we poured a lot of effort, energy, money, time into previously can sometimes hold us back from getting from where we want to go. So I think really taking those bold actions, taking those bold decisions, and then trusting yourself to do hard things. I know we all have so much going on, we all have constraints, but I think if you've come into this business world, if you are running a business, you are the boss, you get to decide, and I encourage you to trust yourself as the boss to do the hard things that need to happen to make this work. And you can do them in ways that work for you, that are adapted to you, but I also think we can just trust ourselves that we do know what we're doing. We do know how to make things happen, even if it's a different way, different pace than we expected, we wanted, or maybe what we see other people doing. Okay, I really hope this was helpful. This is the kind of thing that I cover a lot in my Life First Business approach, and so I think it would be really helpful if you wanted to dive a bit deeper into really thinking about how your business overall fits into your life and how you want to kind of shape this business to fit you in your real life. I really encourage you to check out my Life First Business assessment. It's a completely free guide that really helps walk you through some of these thoughts. Okay, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, if you'd like to get more, please subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell to be notified when there's more episodes. Okay, thanks.